Hello, welcome back. It's time to do some Game Master preparation. Time to do some work. This is a work day and we are talking about locations. So what I thought I would do is kind of present you with my general presentation on locations, but I'm going to give it a twist. We're going to talk about a specific location, and you might be thinking Mount Olympus is on the cards. The problem with Mount Olympus is there's really no information on Mount Olympus. But also, too, Mount Olympus is just a palace on a mountain. Okay, so we're actually going to talk about, as the poll suggests, pyramids, because pyramids are probably one of the most fantastic real-world locations you could possibly have. So I thought, since I haven't really ever talked about pyramids on this channel to any kind of extent, that's where we will be going, but I'll do my presentation first. How's it going, Fred Hubber? Welcome. Fred Hubber is a patron. And how's it going, Shiner81? Okay, so let's go straight into this, and then this will be quite short. This usually is. And then we'll go into the main presentation for today. Or should I say the main workshop, which is around pyramids. For those of you who need information on that, let's do that. Anyway. It's all there. I've got all that. Okay, cool. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about role-playing games. And the topic for today, as it happens, is like, how do you go about making those fantastic fantasy locations for your role-playing game, for your adventures? So this is Game Master Preparation, Lesson 4, Creating Locations. I've run this program before, and so I have an overview, but the key thing is we always cover something hopefully very specific. So the overview is how you can deal with the inspiration, where you get your inspiration for creating a location. Okay, how to create a location, location details and information that we might need to deal with, and also we'll be covering a specific location layout. So as I have said, we're not going to be covering Mount Olympus. The thumbnail suggests that. The problem with this is that would just be a palace on a mountain, as I've mentioned. But the next best thing is a pyramid, and that's what we're going to focus on. And then I'm going to cover some miscellaneous recommendations. So that's the overview for today. So my intention is to explain how to build an adventure location for a role-playing game. Demonstrate that process to a certain degree, not really so much today, but we'll try to do that. We'll do some of the building process for today, so we'll do some demonstration, and you'll be participating because it's a live stream. That's what the whole deal is behind this. In any case, let's get straight into it, shall we? Nice and quick. Inspiration for creating locations. Where do you get those ideas from? I'm going to suggest real-world architecture and landmarks. And the first, probably one of the biggest and most impressive landmarks that still exist is the pyramids. So find an image of a historical building, its structure, its area, its floor, layout, and then use that in your adventure. And then you will add to it, of course. Books, movies offer many landscapes or places that are quite exotic that you can utilize. Video games that have a role-playing game play experience usually present quite dynamic environments that you can explore, so use them. Pictures, paintings, landscapes, any kind of artwork done in oil, acrylic, or watercolor could be useful to you. Pre-made role-playing game published adventures often have locations with maps, so you can use those. There's also Google search, Pinterest, ArtStation, DeviantArt if you're looking for an image of a location as sort of a starting point to what you will wind up creating ultimately in the end. These all work really well. So how do you go about creating your location? Well, using real-world architecture I just mentioned, so actually just copying a lot of that might work for you. Whether it be the floor plans, the layout, a deck plan for a ship, all of these things can work. I would suggest checking out Sly Flourish's Fantastic Locations Preparation Method. Now, he has a book out that covers this. I think probably the thing that you can take away from Mike Shea, which is Sly Flourish, is whatever you do when you're making your fantastic location, is make it old, make it large, Give it unique features. It's got to be unique in some way. Give it a function. Make sure it's functional. And give it an interesting name. Those are the things you really want to focus on. Now, focus on making your location a reusable set piece is really helpful for future preparation. When you are a game master, you'll probably need to run things multiple times. Things will come up. The longer you do this, the more stuff you will be going back to. So make your locations repeatable, things that are pieces that can be reused or recycled. This is things like a village layout, a town layout, cities. A castle layout can be a bit tricky, but castles can work. A stronghold, a tomb, pyramids, a maze. Now, a maze is often quite different every time. You can have different mazes, but that's what an activity book with mazes in is for. Temples, shrine, a mine, caves, a monster's lair, a death trap dungeon might be quite varied, but some of the key elements are still there. Your treasure vault and a sailing ship. There's a lot of locations here that you'll be using or reusing over and over again. So when you're making your fantastic locations, try to focus on the ones you're going to get the most use out of. Ensure the location is interactive for the player characters, because it's the tool for one of the 3 pillars of gameplay. There's probably 4 or 5 pillars of gameplay, but we won't go into that right now. Explore the location. So you need to allow them to explore the location by making it interactive. Draw a picture with digital tools or paper. Okay, like if you want to use pencil and paper, that's fine. I'm more a pencil and paper kind of person, but if you want to use digital tools to draw it out, great. Change what you need to. You can repurpose somebody else's map and make alterations to it. So change what you need to, or change what you want to from any kind of existing map or adventure. Label that map and the locations. Now, there are a number of books out there that will help you get through a lot of this. I could rattle them off very quickly. I don't know how useful that will be, but I will at least do that. I think the Game Master's book of Random Encounters is probably one of the best books out there when it comes to locations. I also think the Pathfinder role-playing game Mastery Guide, this is the first ed edition, not the second ed edition. The second ed edition one is completely useless to you, I'm afraid, when it comes to locations. But the first ed edition is useful to you. Wally DM's Journal of Puzzle Encounters, because often you are dealing with traps and puzzles, and he has a lot of locations or parts that you can port into a location. Also, the Game Master's Guide. Now, many of the Game Master guides for Dungeons & Dragons have relatively alright tools. I would say the best one is still going to be the likes of the first ed edition AD&D Game Master Guide, but also the 5e Game Master Guide, since it's heavily borrows from that book, is probably not too bad as well. Okay, so that is how you go about creating your location. Now we need to do all of the finer detail, all the intricate stuff. So your location details and information. What are the sort of things that you need to cover? Well, first off, some questions to ask yourself. Who created the location is probably a good question to ask, because that informs you about what protagonist or antagonist you might have here, and also like what's the purpose of a location. And that is the next question. What is the purpose of this location? What was it used for? Was it ever used for that purpose, or was it never finished? So cover that. What is the history of a location? And why is that location so important? Okay, if it doesn't have something historical behind it, there's nothing to discover about the location. So it doesn't need to be a lot, but you need to have something. Who inhabits this location right now? The general population of the location, okay? Is it going to be full of goblins or orcs? Is it full of undead? Make a decision. Position your hazards and obstacles in the location. Now, this can consist of traps, puzzles, natural hazards. All of these are sorts of things that you would put into your location. You don't always have to have traps, you don't always have to have puzzles, and you don't always have to have natural hazards. But positioning hazards and obstacles in the way is certainly one of those steps with any kind of location. And then your environmental dressing, like what sort of objects, furniture, what sort of added features do you put into the location? What aspects of it make it possible for the players to manipulate and interact with it so that they can explore, because exploration becomes the focus. When you are designing your location, the first thing to understand is when you're building a location, you build it for exploration. Okay? Next. Usually when I cover something like this, I have some miscellaneous recommendations for you. And you might think this is not nearly enough, Fred. But like all things, this is just the beginning. Okay, then you need to get specific. We'll be going back to each of the things I was talking about before. Remember, recycle and reuse. So you're going to be using the same sort of locations quite a lot. You don't have to be good at drawing a location map. You honestly, like if it's just for your game group, it only needs to be for you because you're not selling it. So don't worry about how good your drawing skills are. It's all good to just draw it on a blank piece of paper. It doesn't even have to have a grid. You don't have to have squares. Okay. It's not necessary to use or learn map drawing software because there are alternatives. You can reuse somebody else's map. You can simply draw it yourself. Okay. So many different maps have been made for fantasy locations. You can steal and borrow existing maps. And Dyson Logo is probably one of the largest resources out there for very sort of simple black and white sort of old school maps if you're interested. If you're looking for something for a virtual tabletop, there are huge quantities of resources out there that you can explore. But if you're making your own stuff, and that's why you're here, just draw it. Use a pen, use a pencil, put it on a piece of paper. That's your starting point. I'm hoping this was useful to you, and if it was, fantastic. I want to say right now that this program has been run a number of times, and every time I run it, I usually cover a different type of location, or we make some tools that you can use. And that is what my intention is with this, is we will do some more tool building. And pyramids is on the menu for today, so I'm going to be covering that very shortly. So I want to say thank you to my patrons because you support me so I can keep running this program. Everything that we make here goes up there. And also I want to thank you for watching and listening. If you found this useful, sweet, great, I'm so happy. And hey, next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, it might be a little bit obvious that I wanted to burn through that very quickly. I've presented this quite a few times, and I was looking at it and thinking, it's time to sort of put some more stuff in there, but I couldn't think of what to put in there. But what I can do is I can cover a specific location. So how's it going? I see we have a lot of people. So 5 votes. Have you used a pyramid in your tabletop role-playing games? Yes, 80%. So there's quite a few of you who are familiar with doing this. No, 20%. Okay, so we're going to leave that poll going. How's it going, Pale Rider? How are you? My Latin textbook had cool house layouts in it. Yeah, like if there's anything that can be really useful to you, I would say you can get House and Garden as a magazine, right? House and Garden, I think, is a magazine that you can get all around the world. And they have like layouts of people's houses where the garden's laid out. Those are just like houses. So if you just wanted a building or a house, you can, and you can, and a lot of these places are quite elegant. So they almost have like a mansion palace feel to them sometimes. So you could probably use a lot of those floor plans because they often will give you the floor plan in the magazine as well as some kind of amazing photographs. So yeah, I know that seems like an odd place to look for stuff, but it works. Okay, now of course the internet gives us access to lots of different things. And I said and promised I would talk about pyramids. So let's do that. I'm going to just type this in here. Hashtag. Let's talk about pyramids. I don't know why I'm having trouble trouble today. Yep. Whoop, 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 whoop. PYR. I am running out of steam. Pyramids. Okay. So, first off, as I was saying, one of my favourite locations is Mount Olympus. But it runs into this horrible problem when you think about Mount Olympus, is about what is that location going to be like? Because there's so little information on Mount Olympus. And because it's a fictional place, it's not really steeped in reality. It's hard to work with. So the next best thing, if you wanted to have a seat of the gods of any kind, I would say pyramids are it. They've been around a very long time. There are still many arguments about how old these pyramids are in Egypt. There are so many different types of pyramids around the world. If you look at Aztec culture, they keep finding pyramids in the forest, and the jungles. And so their structure and their purpose are often seen as Fred Hubbard is mentioning, pyramids are structures for worship and burial. And often they were used that way. But there's some suggestions that they might be used for some other purposes as well. So the structure, I'm not going to give you necessarily a picture or layout of the Egyptian temples, because if you wanted to find an image or a diagram of one, it's very, very easy. Hello, Overboard. Overboard is a patron and also a moderator. Thank you for being here. Hello, you're driving back from your vacation. I hope you had a good vacation, Joe. So I want us to look at pyramids being something beyond just a sacrificial location, a worship location, or a burial chamber. Because there are easier ways to bury somebody than sticking them in a huge pyramid the size of a mountain, okay, or a hill. Now, the different structures or things, the cavities within a pyramid, so far, what they've found is they've found some ascending passageways that lead into the gallery and descending passageways as well. There's a grand gallery, which is quite a lot taller or higher than other locations within it. There aren't that many cavities that I've explored or found access to points yet so far. There are a couple of air shafts that allow air to come in from the top of the pyramid. There is a king's chamber, and the king's chamber is where the king is obviously, Pharaoh king was buried, but also relief chambers. So small chambers that you really can't walk around in or move around in. They are layered above the king's chamber, and quite possibly the reason for doing so is to take some of the pressure off and the weight that would be created in the center of the pyramid. The sheer weight would actually compress everything inside, and so you build a structure in there. Now, it seems a little bit strange. You think something that's solid should not compress, but weight can compress down. Okay, the weight of something when it's really, really heavy might actually cause the top of your pyramid to sink. So they have these relief chambers that actually take pressure off the king's chamber. There's also the queen's chamber, which is positioned below the king's chamber, and there's another access point for another passageway. You have an escape shaft, which is often called the service shaft, probably used for labourers to get to the lower area of the pyramid. And then you have the subterranean chamber. And often the view of the subterranean chamber is a place for water to go so that you don't wind up with the other chambers filling with water. But it's not completely clear why they exist and why they're there. So those are some of the definitive things we know about. Now, some very recently, there has been, and we might be sort of thinking, I remember dead-end passageways. Well, there's actually a dead-end passageway in the pyramids, the largest one in Egypt. And there is the sort of suggestion that either they did not manage to finish what they were trying to do there, or that there are chambers beyond it. One of the things they've discovered through the new technology that's available is there are large open voids. So that means there are more chambers in there. These chambers seems in some cases to be almost as large as the main gallery. like there is a, as I said, there is a grand gallery, and there's some voids or openings and spaces that they can't access. There's no passageways to them as far as they can tell, and they are open voids and almost as large, and in some cases larger than the grand gallery. Also, there is a suggestion from doing research in terms of how heat is created in the structure over time, that there is possibly a heat source at the base inside the pyramid. Sort of suggests a whole lot of other problems and possibilities too, but also that there's heat near the top of the pyramid. So why is there heat there? And then they have recently found a few there's still undiscovered chambers in there that they can't access, and they're using robots to access it. So what does this mean for us in our fantasy location? Okay, what it means is there's really no limit to what you can do. You can start with all of the basics I've just talked about, and then from there, the use of secret passageways and secret doors, additional chambers. Maybe you decide you're going to have a treasure chamber in there, maybe a false treasure chamber. Maybe there's different things going on in here. And this is where our next discussion comes into, because it comes down to like who built them, and what is the purpose of the pyramid. The argument has been that the pyramids were built by Egyptians. There's also been the argument that actually it was not the Egyptians who built it. The Egyptians simply, inherited it from the real builders, which were the people from Atlanta, which is supposed to have been a city that disappeared under the sea many hundreds, thousands of years ago. So possibly. And then there's also been the argument that maybe some sort of alien species from another planet has come and built the pyramids, or at least provided the technology to build the pyramids. And then, of course, they've taken that technology with them once the pyramids have been created. But why were they there in the first place? So our first purpose is, let's look at the purpose of a pyramid. A tomb for kings and queens or gods. Absolutely. Seems the most obvious one. Okay? Not the Occam's razor is not necessarily going to be true in most cases, because it always assumes that the most logical and simple answer is always the correct one, but it's not necessarily true. So sometimes it goes a bit wrong. But we could also say that the pyramids in many cases are a place of worship. Also a place for spaceships to land. Another one is the possibility, because as it happens, the Egyptians were able to build a battery. They actually created batteries. They had light, and they used to build these in pots, in clay pots. They could actually build a battery. It would store energy, and we don't know how long they lasted or anything like that, but we knew that they could create a battery. So there's possibility that maybe the pyramid is a power plant, and an unusual power plant in that it generates or gets its power and stores it through a couple of different ways. One, because of the water. There's water actually running underneath the pyramid, and that movement of water and those streams actually generate static electricity. It's like many things. So if you move things past something, you can generate electricity in the natural world, and we get like a static electricity generation. And that's being stored into this huge capacitor, which is the pyramid. There's another suggestion too, that with the original pyramid had very smooth, shiny surfaces, and that would mean that during sunshine, it would actually heat up, and this is from all of the solar energy. So that because of the shape and the way it was structured, and probably a few cavities within the pyramid, the solar energy is being stored within the pyramid to be used later. For what purpose? Power a spaceship, or do something else, who knows? And the last suggestion I'm going to put forward to you is that the pyramid is, and it's quite clear from all of the different types of writings and hieroglyphics in a pyramid. And of course, if you're going to have a pyramid, you want to have hieroglyphics and writings on the walls, things for people to decipher. It's almost like the pyramid is a huge structure designed as a puzzle box. And so there's a couple of different ways we can see this. And who you decide is going to be the one who's responsible for creating your pyramid in your game, obviously up to you. Lots of different options here. But its purpose is the interesting one. And I would like to discuss probably like can you think of something else that you could use the pyramid for outside of the ones that I've suggested? I'm sure some of you have got some ideas. So that's that's where my head was at for today. Hello, Prepare, Cook and Survive. How are you? Okay, let's have a look here. So Fred Harper, I think they were built by humans with technologies we have lost. Look, there's a lot of things that crop up, and this is one of the things that you can do with your own fantasy worlds. There's a lot of things that crop up in our own archaeology, our own science that don't fit what people understand. Things that are way too old, and we just don't know how they could possibly exist. And so what this suggests is that there are many, many civilizations on planet Earth, and it can flow over onto your own fantasy world. Many, many civilizations that used to exist, where there's very little left of what they made. Okay, and so occasionally we dig up something, it doesn't fit in, it's way too old. Who the heck made this thing? What was it used for? It suggests a level of technology we have not seen before. These sorts of things do crop up quite a lot, and they get put into a vault somewhere, and they kind of get left and forgotten because they break the current science norms, and so that's a bit of a hassle for people because they don't know how to explain them. So or they get written off as being a hoax, even though they are proved to be legit. They're not something that's been fabricated recently. So what this suggests is that there are many civilizations that probably existed, that there is nothing left or very little left of their technology and what they built that was used by somebody else, or that somebody else benefited from whatever they built. So it's entirely possible that that's where we're heading. So you can, with a pyramid, and because it's made of stone, it lasts a long time, because the Egyptians made things from gold. Things that you want to last, obviously they can be made magical. But if you want it to last and have that sort of old feel, because old is fantastic, right? It always, if you find it and it's old, it's fantastic. Make it out of stone. Don't make it out of steel, and make it out of gold. Stone and gold, those are the things you want because they last longer than anything else. Yep. What do you got here, Fred? Mexican and South American pyramids, they held sacrifices at the top of. Yes, they did. And there's plenty of research to indicate that was the case. Yeah, place of worship, sacrifice location, yes. Yep. Okay. All right. I'll just note those down. I had written them down on my little piece of paper. Pardon me. How's it going? Prepare, Cook and Survive. How are you doing? Okay, so going down here. I've fallen behind everybody very quickly, so I'll try to catch up if I can, okay? Pale Rider. Hello, Pale Rider. Yeah, I think there was a human civilization before the Ice Age, and natural catastrophe happened and knocked us back into the hunter-gatherer type of lifestyle. Look, there are suggestions that civilizations existed quite a lot further back than even possibly that. The problem is we always assume that our science and our technology knows a lot. So this is one of the great things about a pyramid, because a pyramid, when you put one in your fantasy location, it opens up so many different questions. It opens up the mystery box. This is why I was suggesting that the pyramid should be approached like a puzzle box. What it's hiding, what it houses, what it's used for is a puzzle box. Yeah, pyramids lining up with structures on Mars is cool. Yeah. Are you talking about the pyramids of Mars that have been suggested, that have been covered up by dust and dirt, that apparently line up with the pyramids on Earth? So here was another thing. Teleportation to Mars. Maybe. The pole shifting. So here's one of the problems is you're right. Because your planet or your world, their poles will shift, it means whatever structure you build that might be lining up with a star system or lining up with another planet's structures will be out of alignment. A lot of time has to pass for a pole to shift usually, but it's possible. Also too, I think one of the things that they had suggested that the pyramid could be used for, and let's list it down, right, is that the pyramids might be indicating the position of stars in the sky. The problem is that the stars in the sky do change their position over time. Right throughout the night, they're moving across the sky, but even then, in terms of their position, they are shifting as the cosmos expands. Things don't quite line up. So yeah, absolutely. So let's put down a couple of things that people have suggested. So lining up with the stars or a star constellation. Up with a star constellation. And then so I think somebody had put down here teleportation or a Stargate. As a because Stargate is look, using a pyramid as a Stargate of sorts is fantastical in every respect, right? So absolutely, let's say that that's a Stargate. For those of you who know Stargate or what Stargate is, it's a TV series and a movie. And we'll just mark down here teleportation or wormhole. Wormhole. Okay. And I think that's got it. Wormhole. Okay, there we go. Right, that's better. Okay, got it. Done. Sweet. Moving down. Pyramids could be used as structures that harness power and allow planar and world travel. Yes, exactly. And it's one of the more nutty ideas. But look, if you're going to have any structure, what's more interesting? If you want to go from one place to another by teleportation or a wormhole, is a circle with a whole lot of runes really cool, or an enormous pyramid the size of a mountain? The pyramid the size of the mountain is the one you want. Really, that's the one. It could be a bomb shelter too. Interesting concept. It would be a bomb shelter for very few people. But Fred, let's go with the idea that it could be a bomb shelter. We'll add that to our list. A bomb. I suppose it doesn't seem unreasonable. It certainly would make a pretty decent bomb shelter. At least for the first impact. Once the dust clears, it might not be quite so pleasant. Or would it be like being in an underground car park and you're never going to get out again? Okay. Right, what else we've got here? I think, oh, there we go. We're almost at the bottom. Prepare. A lot of theories on vibration being used to make the pyramids. Yes. I believe, what was it? Cutting tools that used sand, vibration, all sorts of things. No problem, Pale Rider. You go do what you need to do. Guiding points to something hidden elsewhere. Yes, absolutely. Did I freeze? Okay, let me just check my stream and I'll see what's going on. Make sure it's all right at my end. I didn't realise that was the case. Okay, so I can see how much of my computer is being used right now. 1.1%. I'm live streaming in 4K. It's YouTube. YouTube, you're doing something. It's not me. My computer and my internet is pretty solid, so it's got to be something that's happening at YouTube's end. Okay. Yes, I didn't muck around when I bought my computer. If I was going to live stream in high quality and apparently 4K, I've tested it like you wouldn't believe. The bitrate going through to YouTube is huge, huge. And I'm still only using 1.1% of my CPU. Maybe it bumped up to 1.4. I think I got plenty of space. It'll be YouTube. Steve, you're not late. I'm still here. We've been chatting away about this topic. And, oh dear. Yes, and I guess, let's say here, something is hidden in the pyramid. What is it? This is a huge question because no matter what the pyramid is, we can probably assume that our real life pyramids, they hide something. Whether it's a body to a king or a queen, a treasure, knowledge, old technology that is not being used now. It could be all sorts of different things. And so this sort of opens the gate for you as your fantasy and science fiction adventure and world and the locations that you built. Put a pyramid in there, man. It's going to make a huge difference. It's the reason why we like to put a Fountain of Youth, isn't it? It could be the Fountain of Youth, isn't it? Absolutely. So I guess now Fred actually comes to one of the more preposterous ideas that have been proposed about the pyramids of Egypt, and we'll talk about that in a second, actually goes down to what he's talking about right now. It's YouTube playing up Fred. Well, at least in the UK. It'll be YouTube. It usually is. Usually I can tell if something's going wrong at my end. But right now it's piping through free fast. Anyway, now where was I? Survey references to check on continental drift. I suppose that's not a... So there was a lot of suggestion that the pyramids were used as a form of navigation. So I suppose if you needed a point of reference on your world, building a huge structure would give you a very good indication of where you were, right? Or where you are. And when you leave that location, so actually a navigation point is actually not a bad idea. A navigation, what would be a navigation marker? I think that's what we want to call it, is a navigation marker. So your pyramid is a navigation marker. Next. Where are we? Oh, here we go, Steve. The subject is kind of interesting to me. I'm basing my new Kickstarter campaign setting on a world that has many portals, and magic is based on the quantum many worlds theory. Okay, all right. So, does anybody remember it? Like some of these suggestions that we've put forward aren't as ridiculous as they might sound, even in the real world. For a fantasy world, you can do whatever you like. Yeah. We haven't discussed ley lines yet, Steve. No. But as a navigation marker, the pyramids might well have been a navigation marker. Continental drift, shifting of poles would all sort of affect all of that. But a few years back, I can't remember when it was, but NASA did report that they got a signal from a very long way away, and they managed to decipher the message, which is usually quite unusual. They don't usually get a signal from out of space, but NASA actually got this message, and it said basically that the world was asking for help, that they had done something to their atmosphere, the ion layer around their planet, and it had been destroyed, and they were in dire need of assistance. But the message had taken so long to get to Earth that world would probably be gone by now. Yep, that's how long it would take for that signal to get to us. So for those of you who are thinking, aliens don't exist, well, I think maybe they do, because NASA got a signal from outer space that did not come from anywhere else, and they were able to decipher it. So you can play around with these things. Fact is stranger than fiction. It really is. Fact is stranger than fiction. It's getting stranger every day. Okay, so I want to come back to Fred Hubbard's Fountain of Youth idea here, because there is a really peculiar, for those of you who don't know, I spend a huge amount of my time on YouTube watching, you could call it crackpot videos on archaeology and anthropology, and you name it, like all sorts of different stuff. One for monsters, one for locations, one for ideas, one for stories. But there's lots of places out there that give you all sorts of crazy stuff. Now, whether it's true or not is not useful, but what it's great is for mining it for ideas for your role-playing games. So if you wanted something that was sort of, based on something that somebody had cooked up, it's like reading a science fiction novel, but the science fiction novel is spoken and it's in video form. Yeah. Okay, now, Steve, see, that sounds awesome. Okay, treasure of a money mummy might be Slater remove a curse. Yes, treasure or a mummy, absolutely. Egyptian priests knew the secret of similar triangles and used them for surveying land, and peons trying to learn it were executed. Yeah, the protection of information was a big deal. One of the things that seems to be pretty obvious with a pyramid and the way that it's set up is that there's a lot of information being stored there that's hard to decipher. It's not really obvious. And why would you do something like that? It's probably to hide something. Yep. So whatever is in there, if you have tomb raiders that you've got to contend with who might break into something like this and get in there, whatever you're trying to hide, whatever information you're trying to hide, whatever sort of technology you're trying to hide, whatever you're trying to put in there that you don't want somebody to just be able to whack a big hole and then and take what they want, well, what you do is you code it. And this is why I had mentioned that the pyramid is like a giant puzzle box. It's a giant code to be broken, and it's not the kind of code that you can break easily. And of course, with enough time passing, it gets harder and harder and harder. So yeah, that's how you protect something, is you code it so that it's really difficult to understand. And to get to where you need to go will not have a passageway. It will have been blocked up. It will be blocked off. Okay, next. Not yet, not yet. Like they were, there is something of a Royal Miles. It's crazy as well. The Royal Miles. I'm not quite sure what we're talking about here. Prepare, cook, and survive. You're talking about the Queen's Mile or Royal Miles? I'm not sure what the Royal Miles is referring to. Although I support the theory that the pyramids at Giza were hydrogen batteries. Yeah, I think that they were probably a combination of solar energy and hydrogen batteries. Like, hydro water movement generates power. Okay, they used dinosaurs to help build the pyramids. Maybe they did. Who knows? Pyramids as housing. Each level have their own patios and gutter system to gather rainwater. Residents high up. Love it. Anti-gravity feather fall well in the center. To try and hold down Tarask. Yes, yeah, we built this great huge thing so that whatever's living underneath there doesn't come back up again. It's quite a good idea, actually. Maths facts with them. What's this? The maths facts with them is awesome. Yes, absolutely. The gods have secrets, Fred, and they place guardians at those secrets. Exactly, Steve. Exactly. Yeah, Chernobyl of 50,000 years ago. This is their cap for it. Quite possibly. uh, uh, I'm just gonna port this idea over because it's funny, and so there we go. Hold down a Tarask, build a pyramid on it, so it can't come back up. Okay, so Fred Hubbard had suggested something about the Fountain of Youth. So this is probably the most preposterous out of all of the suggestions that the pyramids could be used for. But since it's preposterous, it's going to fit really well into your fantasy location, right? And that is that the pyramid is used, and the reason for actually placing it there in the first place is that when you put a body in there, it will sort of rejuvenate that individual, allowing them to go from a physical form to a higher state of being. So it's not quite Fountain of Youth, your physical body regenerates, but that your, I guess, in some respects, maybe your spirit or your mind ascends to another level of existence. And that's what the pyramids are there for. And so when you place a body in there, that's what it's trying to do. So play with that as you see fit. For the discussion, let's put a multi-level maze in the pyramid. Well, I think we already have. I mean, absolutely. I think you can pretty much establish now that the pyramid is a maze of some kind. Yep. Absolutely, differently, some sort of maze. So I just want to write this in here. So I'm jotting a lot of these ideas down as I go. Now, what was it? God, I've watched too many videos on this. I've got to remember everything now too, don't I? So it is generate a corpse or ascend a dead creature can transcend I don't think that's quite the word. Yes, transcend new level of existence. And there we go. Some more outrageous ideas. What have you got here, Fred? I can see this is obviously, there's a few of you who are quite happy about talking about this. One of my favorite things is pyramids. Just because, yeah, transcend. Thank you, Steve. I got it. I got a little lost along the way. But I'm there. You like Hubbard's idea in that there's a pool at the bottom of the Featherfall well that contains a pool of youth. In the movie Stargate, the big baddie had a sarcophagus of youth. Yeah, right. So, and I think a lot of the ideas from Stargate come from some of the more outrageous theories as to why the pyramids in Egypt exist. So yeah, let's add that to our pool of ideas, shall we? I had a 24 level pyramid maze that got bigger from top to ground level, then got smaller going down. Oh, I see. So one of the really interesting things is that there is a statement that there are supposed to be three Giza pyramids, but apparently there was a fourth pyramid. And as it happens, the theory is this, that the fourth pyramid would have to be upside down for it to relate to the star system or the star constellations above. I believe it's Orion, that constellation. But there is actually a staircase that goes underground into a sort of a vast complex. And what that might actually indicate is that the fourth pyramid is not missing or degraded over time, that it's inverted, that it's not actually above ground, that it's below ground. And maybe that's why it does relate to the Orion constellation or belt. Because one of the statements is the only way for it to line up is to have one of the pyramids upside down. And the only way to have a pyramid upside down is to put it below ground. So maybe that's the way to do it. That's the fourth pyramid that we. I believe it's on military land, so you can't really access it unless you get permission. Okay. No, the gods wouldn't want anybody to live forever. Absolutely not. For sure. Ah, dear. Next. 43,200 used in a puzzle. Somehow the PCs to figure out. So I'm not suggesting you include 43,200 puzzles. That would be a bit of a handful, right? Yes. So Steve, that's true. A lot of the ideas for Stargate actually come from the US government released files, and surprisingly, they actually do relate in many cases to pyramids. Like they've got all sorts of strange things connected to it. We have some realistic ideas, some fantastic ideas, which is what we wanted, and some and most likely all are fantasy. Yes, well, all of it can be used as fantasy, and all of it can be used in the adventure and location that you're building. So let's consider. Yes, it's an inverted ziggurat. Exactly, Steve. Exactly. There is the fourth pyramid. It's inverted. So instead of building your pyramid above ground, you could build an underground pyramid. Summoning a sphinx. Yes, absolutely. Summoning a sphinx. Maybe that's if we're going to have a puzzle box, it would be nice to have a sphinx. A sphinx. Let's add that to our list here. A pyramid can be above ground, or inverted and below ground. Ground level. There we go. All right, cool. A lot of sort of crazy ideas. I thought we'd throw all those ideas out at people and see what they could do with them. In the old module, White Plume Mountain, there's an inverted ziggurat. Exactly, Steve. So, for those of you who are unaware, a lot of the people who made the early Dungeons and Dragons modules or adventures, Dave Arneson, Gary Gygax will write it. They were history buffs. They loved history. They took a lot of their ideas from real world ideas and sort of modified them for their game system. And this includes the adventure creation. White Plume Mountain is actually 3 different adventures that were put together in kind of like a movie trailer form. They were sort of to showcase 3 adventures. Unfortunately, it was published as is. That was never the intention from its original writer. So here's the crux of it. I would imagine the inverted ziggurat is based off the the research around the fourth pyramid in Egypt, that people are like, where is it? Yeah, which is, it's probably there. It's probably there. Okay, I ran that module when I was 15 years old. My data was pulled from Fred's Flintstone diaries. Really? Nice fun. Hey, look, I'm happy to come back to this topic. It seems like people are really interested in talking about it, and I'm sure it's going to churn up a whole lot more sort of quirky ideas. But I need to go and take a short break because it's almost top of the hour. So I'm going to leave the poll up as it is and let people respond, but I'm going to plug in a question here. It's as good as anything else. We need some godlike guardians too. I met both Dave and Ernie in the 80s, and they started out as wargamers, oddly enough. That's because all role players started out as wargamers quite often, because that was what there was. That was the deal, right? Okay, so now, what chambers? Oops, hang on. What chambers would you have in a pyramid? Pyramid. So let's ask that question. I think that's an interesting question to ask. It's got a place to be had, and it's probably the one of the next things as a game master when you're doing your preparation that you have to figure out. So we've established one of our questions, which is, what is the purpose? Who it was created by? Lots of different options going on. We've already talked a heap about that. But the nuts and bolts of our location is the locations within that location, right? Our major outside location is the pyramid itself. But within the pyramid, we need to have something to explore. Remember that interaction aspect? So I'm going to put this forward. What chambers would you have in a pyramid? That is our question. And I will go take a break, come back, and we'll see where we're at. D&D started as a breakout of an elite force from the chainmail game system, and originally you needed the chainmail rulebook. Yes, but Dave Arneson stopped using... I mean, Dave Arneson did use the chainmail. This is Gary Gygax you're talking about, what he wrote his. But Dave Arneson shifted to become something else a little different after chainmail. So let's not get too attached to chainmail, because remember how Dave Arneson ran his game and how Gary Gygax ran his game were actually quite different. So I'll be back. I'll let Arnie look after you, and we'll continue on our pyramid journey. Pardon me. So I'm back. Let's see what people have been putting into the chat. Be interesting to know. Lozenge people. It's winter here in New Zealand. I'm getting closer and closer to my holidays, but I feel like I'm constantly fighting off the lurgy. Anyway, let's have a look and see what you've got here. Oh, depending on the purpose of the pyramid, exactly. That in fact the chamber's design and placement, exactly. This is very true. We have a tomb, sacrificial, treasure vault. So we'll add in a treasure vault. That seems like a fairly reasonable thing to include into a site like this. Whether it's for a tomb or it's just a treasure vault as such, let us include something here. Subterranean chamber. Okay, here we go. Large voids. Our treasure vault. It's an easy way to get your players invested in going inside, right? Thank you for that. Prepare, cook, and survive. The world chamber. Pale Rider. A large chamber with a hologram of the world and making donated resources and special locations. And marking donated and denoted resources and special locations. Interesting. So, world chamber, large chamber. Okay. It's like a map room. Essentially, that's what you're saying. This sounds very much like Mission to Mars. Does anybody remember that movie? Not a very good movie, but interesting concepts behind it. The face on Mars, right? Let's include this. Okay, a large chamber with a hologram of the world, marking special locations. Okay, let's do that. Let's put this in. Okay, let's go here with a hologram. Okay, cool. Got it. Done. Red box, portal, a booby trap chamber that floods into a snake pit. So one of the interesting things is you would think there'd be lots of traps in the pyramids, but there aren't really. Surprisingly, there aren't really that many traps. We'd always assumed that there were lots of traps in some of the old tombs, but I mean there are. But, yeah, a booby trap chamber. Because it's not D&D if you don't have traps, right? Booby trap chamber. And we're dealing with, what are we dealing with here? A room that fills with water, sand, or snakes. Here we go. That'll be pleasant. A nice little bath and snakes. Our long corridors covered with hieroglyphics of ancient civilizations. Yes. Hieroglyphics is going to be a big factor. So, hieroglyphics. We want lots and lots of hieroglyphics. So, let's put this in here. hieroglyphics, ancient symbols, and pictures carved into stone and gold. Because remember, stone and gold, these are the only things that last a long time, so that's what we use as our material. You still have some of the worn out white box. Okay. A star observatory chamber. Right, because apparently this thing is related to the stars, correct? Shina 801, I see it, I do. Let's put this in here. Not bad, pretty good. Some good ideas. A part of a crayon, and part of a crayon. What are we talking about here, Fred? I'm a little lost. That is the word crayon, right? Have the world chamber at the top, exposed to the sky from the inside, but you can only see stone from the outside. All right. Sand technology. Harmonics chamber. A harmonics chamber. Right, okay. Now, what is the harmonics chamber supposed to do? You're going to have to explain it to people. A harmonics chamber. Okay. A chamber of murals, frescoes that have history and that give history. So that would be the Grand Gallery, if I believe that's the Grand Gallery, really. Gigantic boulder room with ramp. It's another trap, a trap chamber. A lot of the passageways are on an angle too. They're steep. They're going uphill or downhill. They're usually not flat inside the pyramid. So boulders would be an easy way to keep people out. Some very awesome ideas. I agree, absolutely. A room of levers that were supposed to have been pulled to close off passageways permanently. Touching levers is a bad idea. Yes, absolutely. Steve, yet another good idea from Hubba. Fred gets lots of good ideas. The lever room should be adjacent to the temple room to allow the priest to seal off the pyramid in case of attack. Right, okay. A pit of flesh-eating undead scarabs. Oh, that's the mummy. For those of you who haven't figured it out, that's the mummy. Flesh-eating undead scarabs. And these are undead. He hasn't even made them just flesh-eating scarabs. He's decided to make them undead as well. Nice one, Fred. The world room could have the ability to astral project you to the location of your choice. So a little bit like the Princess of Mars, or Edgar Rice Burroughs? That movie, was it John Carter, or John Carter from Mars? Or John Carter of Mars, or whatever they could call it. I mean, it should have been called John Carter of Mars. You like the sand elemental room, pal? What if the room is the harmonics room and sound makes the sand come alive? Oh, good lord. Eek. Yes, there are. I'm doing my best. I'm jotting things down, okay? I am jotting things down. Natural treasure vaults. You're getting a notepad out. Prepare, cook, and survive's probably a good idea. It's always possible I might miss something or skip something. Yeah, I have been reading before I'm jotting things in. I have been doing that. Yeah, I really like the John Carter movie. I mean, it's based off a book. Obviously, there was some creative. They obviously changed a few things. I know you do, Steve. You keep doing it. They all do. So it's not like you're special. I get it from everybody. Anyway, um, so let's go through here, and I've been writing down your bits and pieces, people, and we will fill out as you're coming up with ideas. I think we're pretty close to the end of the idea train on there. Okay, so let's give you some. Uh, let's do another hashtag. Who created? So you'll notice these are a lot of the questions I was asking in my first part of the presentation. Who created the pyramid? Remember, in your fantasy world, so let's forget about the Egyptians, the Atlantis people, aliens from outer space. I want you to start thinking about your fantasy world. I've got them down. I got harmonics room. I've got world hologram room. It's there. They're in there. Okay. Next. So let's go here. A few things I want to fill out because I am aware that if we're going to have a pyramid, we're going to have to describe a few of these things as we go. The Great Pyramid. Okay. No, that's not what I want. Okay, so here we go. A team of researchers has discovered a mysterious 30-foot long cavity inside Egyptian's Great Pyramid of Giza, also called the, all right, is it Khufu Pyramid. The structure is the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and the only one that exists today. So one of the reasons why we're doing pyramids, because if you're going to have a fantastic location, the 7 wonders of the ancient world are things that you really want to consider because they just make a huge difference. Anyway, let's keep going. So the ascending passageway leads to the pyramid. The ascending passageway is the same dimensions as the descending passageway. So it is about 1 meter by 1 meter. It can be quite a difficult trek for some people. Yeah, well, because it's not very high, is it? You have to be bent. You'll be bent over most of the time. So yes, it's not designed for tall people. Okay, so this is a passage. No, I don't want to use feet. 1 meter by 1 meter with a slope. A stone wall passage. Oh, there we go. That's what I want. Better. One meter with a slope. 1 meter wide by 1 meter high with a slope. Okay, there we go. So we've got that one done. Hello, Jeeves. How are you? Uh, oh my gosh! What have people been plugging in here? I put one little. You guys have been going like a bat out of hell. There was another fantasy series, I think. All right, been a long time. Guy in our dimension has leprosy, goes into a coma here, and he's in another world where he is almost a superhero. Oh, I see. I haven't heard of it, Fred. A passageway with floating floor tiles over what looks like a bottomless pit. Absolutely. You guys look like you're more interested in the... Why would you include this in here? It's like, who would include this in a pyramid? In any location? Alright, so let's have a look. Harmonics, large open voids. Okay, we're going to go here. And let's paste it. Okay, got it. White gold will have the atlas for that world. Oh, okay, all right. My ruins. I might not have a pyramid. We're from a time before the gods populated the planet. The gods found out what happened to the world, and they hid that secret within the ruins. Exactly. There you go. A character seeking immortality created the first. Once reached immortality, the followers created them all over the world. Okay, all right. I see people are coming up with some ideas. Hello, Nacho Man. Nacho Man is also a patron. Thank you for being here. The only time I had a pyramid in my game is because of an unlucky roll on a bag of beans. Oh, really? How many sides does a pyramid have? 4, 5, or 6, maybe? No. If you take the whole structure, it has 5 sides. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the, if you're putting it above ground. But then you would also count the surface underneath. Have a look at your 4-sided dice. Your 4-sided dice is a... Oh, no, it's not actually. It's not a pyramid. 4-sided dice is not a pyramid. I'd forgotten that. The 4-sided dice is not a pyramid. Yeah. So it's got 5 sides. You got 3 more sessions of gameplay out of it. Oh, nice one. I have not used a pyramid, but it's an excellent idea. Well, I'm glad you like it. This is why we're doing this today. Is like, let's get a pyramid going, people. I have a kind of avoided using pyramids in my Forgotten Realms setting unless the PCs went to Uther. Well, it's the Forgotten Realms, right? So you're kind of restricted by the Forgotten Realms, unless, of course, you're changing the Forgotten Realms to fit what you want to do. The last time I used a pyramid was actually the White Plume Mountain. Okay, session. Oh, okay. But the pyramid is a prison. The pyramid is a prison. Okay. Let's. It's not a bad idea, Pale Rider. The pyramid is a prison. What is its purpose? What is it holding prisoner? Something terrible, correct? It's a cool idea. I love the harmonics room idea. Going to steal that one. Of course you are. You'll credit the group. It isn't going to make any difference. You do realise, right, that the concept of a harmonics room in the Great Pyramids has been around a long time. So you're not going to be able to copyright it. I hate to say it, Steve. So if you want to type in harmonics room, pyramid, you're going to get a lot of people have already written a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not one of those things you're going to be able to like, I'm publishing this. So you try typing in pyramid and in harmonics room. and you get a lot of information on that. There's videos on this all over the place. The Great Pyramid Experiment, measuring the sonic something. Moody's Pyramid of Harmonics. What else have we got here? Harmonics, the Pyramid of Giza. Human Development Analyst. Harmonic Resonator. Evidence. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Builders of the ancient Egyptian pyramids used techniques of harmonic resonance. They strictly observed measurements and proportions which allow connection to. So yeah, it's you're not really stealing. It's been around a little while. Okay. We can include anything in our fantasy pyramid. Exactly, Fred. You got it. I love White Plume Mountain. Such a random funhouse dungeon. I should put my group through it. Yeah, I think the original creator of White Plume Mountain was horrified that they published it in its current form. If you do a little bit of research, you'll discover he was not very happy, but they decided to just keep it as it was. Sometimes these things have a life of their own. There's a library, but you scroll, but you put a scroll and start reading. You get teleported to the world the scroll describes. Oh, I see. Evil lizard overlords created the pyramids to teleport precious metals to their home world. Oh, isn't that based on fact? I like the Aztec-style pyramids. Hey, Overboard, if you like Aztec-style pyramids, it's not a problem. Just use one. It's just got a flat top. Makes it easy when you want to park your flying saucer. How many sides does our pyramid have, Fred? No, it's going to have 5 sides. It's not a 20. It's not a 4-sided dice shape. It's the actual. Traditional pyramids had 5 sides. That's right. That includes the base. Yep. A 4-sided dice is 4 sides. Stands as a triangular pyramid. Yeah. So we got a 5-sided pyramid. The Giza pyramid has more than 5 sides. Does it? I didn't realize that. I thought it had 4 sides. Am I wrong about that one? How many sides does the all right, okay. Well, now you've got me. Now you got me curious. If I go and do a little search of this, will I actually find this? Is this actually true? Oh. Well, this looks like there might be something going on here. The 8 faces of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It has more sides than you think. Oh, here it is. Do the pyramids of Giza have 8 sides? Really? Despite what you might think about the ancient structure, the Great Pyramid is an 8-sided figure, not a 4-sided figure. Each of the pyramid's 4 sides are evenly split from the base to tip by very subtle concave indentations. It is believed that this discovery was made in 1940 by a British Air Force pilot named P. Okay, well, obviously they didn't want to call him. It was Paul. Paul had it. Why does it have 8 sides, not 4? Oh, I see. Oh, it's got a concave. So it looks 4-sided, but on each side there's actually 2 more sides that are slightly inverted in. Interesting. Didn't realize that. Why would they do that? That is an interesting development. I would not have expected that. So it's actually got 8 different sides to it. D8 stands on tip is almost one pyramid on an inverted pyramid. Okay. I'm sure you don't, Steve. Next. But it may make it into publication, though. Yeah, well, you know. I don't think it's going to make any difference, honestly. I'm sure somebody else is going to have written it down somewhere. Rolled a pyramid on the bag of beans, immediately searched Dyson logos for maps, and ran with it. Unfortunately, the pyramid crushed the village and the people we were meant to save. Filled full of random undead and random treasure from the DMG. Yeah, well, of course. Why wouldn't you do that? The idea tonight of having a harmonics room with the sand coming alive is what I meant. Ah, okay. Yes, the group does. This group leads to all sorts of really good ideas. If without them, wouldn't get anywhere near as good an idea. I couldn't do it. It's always this group of people. I know that's the case. And yes, there's going to be a lot of people using that idea today. I can see. Yes, I did. I did fact check it, Steve. I just had a look now. It's weird. It's weird how that apparently one of them has 7 sides. I didn't realize that either. You can see the outer walls might be a good location to have as a magnetic trap room. Ah, yeah, yeah, a magnetic trap. That would be fun. Uh, Changing slopes halfway up. It has 8 sides because of the concave sides. Yes, creating a shadow along the yeah. Oh, that's right. So it actually has 9 sides because you haven't counted the base. Good point, Pale Rider. So it doesn't have 8 sides, it has 9 sides. If you were to lift it up, that would be the 9th one. What is the purpose of the capstone? There's been all sorts of speculations. Pretty much all of them have related back to the topics we've already talked about, though. There are about a dozen smaller pyramids in the region that have more pronounced changes in slope. Ah, a primordial snake. Keep the primordial snake inside so he doesn't escape. Of course, that would make sense. Anyway, let's keep moving. I need to make sure that we get you all of the information that you require so you are able to describe and understand what you're putting in there. So let's keep going. And the grand gallery of our pyramid. What's the deal with the grand gallery? And here, what is the grand gallery? Okay, the grand gallery is a long narrow passage inside the pyramid that leads to the king's chamber. It is one of the most fantastic passageways constructed in ancient world inside a Egyptian pyramid. So what we want is we want to know what is in there. The floor. Okay, so this is blocks of stone cobbled together. I think that the key thing with this is it's got a very high ceiling, if I remember right. Can you go inside the Great Pyramid? What is hidden in the void in the Great Pyramid? Don't know. Was anything found in the void in the Great Pyramid? Be no. Next. A So it is just a big cavity. Interesting. Right, so I want a description. of the great, yes, here we go. So let's put in this in. Bunkers, be right back. No problem, Steve. You keep doing your thing. There's a room of dog dummies. Dog mummies, not dog dummies. Dog mummies, really? The capstone was made of gold and used as the focal point of the release of energy from the pyramid. Yeah, I believe, wasn't there some talk that was made of black obsidian as well? So it's not always gold? A mushroom, no, let's leave the mushrooms alone. A radio beacon for the invading fleet. Yes, of course. Okay, so this is grand there. Alright, so let's do that. So we want a narrow, a long, narrow passage with a high ceiling, covered in, and we will add a little bit here because I think that's going to be a bit more fun. Some hieroglyphics, I think is going to be on the cards, and I think I had it here somewhere a second ago. Did I not? Did I miss it? Oh gosh, I hope I haven't. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's do this. It's not really a gallery until you actually put something there, right? Hieroglyphics and... Okay, good. That's that one. The air shafts. Bunkers, right. Let's do this. Let's grab a air shaft. So it's a narrow shaft. Oh, 3 feet wide. Okay. About 3 feet wide. About 3 feet wide. So it's quite narrow. Okay. A vertical shaft leading outside that is 3 feet wide, that allows air and water into the pyramid. So one of the interesting things is you got air shafts in the pyramid, and water would fall into them. Water would go into them. So the whole structure is built around allowing water to go inside, which is an interesting concept. I'm not sure why you would do that. They didn't have like a cover to stop the water from getting in. They just come out, right? They're not really big enough for anybody to get through though. Okay. Okay, so the next thing on my list is the King's Chamber and describing this thing. So let's break that down. And let's see here. Paste. Go there. So, room proper, usually termed the King's Chamber. This room is entirely lined and roofed with granite. Okay. 2 narrow shafts running opposite masonry. It is not known whether they were designed for religious purpose or were meant. Okay. What is in the King's Chamber is what we want. The pyramid contains 3 known chambers. A subterranean cavity, yeah, we haven't got there yet, which was clearly never used. The confusingly named Queen's Chamber, which I bet it is confusing, which was never intended as a burial chamber for the Queen, but possibly to hold the King's funeral gifts. And higher up, the King's Chamber, which contains an empty granite sarcophagus. All right, which is probably because somebody took it out. If there was a body there, it's been removed. Too much time has passed. So it's, yeah. So lined with granite. Why granite? Because granite is very strong, right? So that'll be the reason, more than likely. Next, a room entirely lined and roofed with granite. Granite with a sarcophagus. Let's include the sarcophagus because that's what we want to put there. And that's it. Okay, cool. Done. What do you got here, people? You need water to cool the reactor. Maybe that's what was going on. There's an underground river under Giza, the Giza pyramid. Yeah, I know, Steve. This is what apparently generates the static electricity from off the pyramid. They are petrified skeleton remains of some immense creature, most of which is underground. Any evidence to suggest a vast network underground tunnels? Well, I look, if you have an underground river, and I didn't realize these things existed, but they do. There are actually a lot of underground rivers and streams that existed around the world, even lakes, but just underground. The vast creature's remains got carved by human. The vast creature's remains got carved by human. I don't understand what that means, Fred. The vast creature's remains. Now I don't understand. Large door with no handles, a large symbol showing a picture of a bird riding a camel, holding a crane in one wing and pointing north with the other wing, wearing a headdress. Oh, that's complicated. Cool, blimey. Are they posing for a picture? Petrified back spikes sticking out of it. Nice one. Okay, let's do the next section of our pyramid. God, you guys, you're funny. Anyway, let's do this. Let's go here. The relief chambers. Okay. Relieving chambers do not relieve. Above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid is so-called relieving chambers. The picture shows a simulation of the relieving chambers. Okay. What is in the relieving chamber in the pyramid? Okay. Let's have a look. Weight relieving chambers above the King's Chamber describe the weight of the overlaying rock and prevent the King's Chamber from collapsing. Okay. Descending and ascending. Oh, sorry, people. I'm just really tired. Okay, I think what we'll do. Um, very narrow. Chambers. That aren't large enough for a humanoid to enter, that support the weight of the pyramids center. Okay. Tip, I guess. Top. I guess top will do. Okay. Cool. I got that in. The Queen's Chamber, which is going to, of course, be very confusing because it's not really got the Queen planted in it, but we will deal with that. It is another chamber in any case. Yes, very complex engineering was needed to not have the pyramids collapse into a pile. Yeah, very much so. One would not expect that you would have to be so careful. You would think that if you just made something out of big, huge, solid mass of stone, that it would just stay in place, but it doesn't work that way. Here we go. Paste. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. And we go up and there. Paste. Here we go. The Queen's Chamber. It's 18 feet by 4 inches, 17 feet high. By this chamber has become known as the Queen's Chamber. It is unlikely. Yes, that's right. Okay. So a lot of speculation, but apparently King didn't like being quite so low in the. Wanted to be a bit higher. That's an interesting one. Oh, okay. Here we go. This might be quite useful to us. The so-called Queen's Chamber of the Great Pyramid of Giza received its name from the Arabic explorer, but scholars now agree that it was not actually intended to be a burial chamber of a queen. You enter through a horizontal passageway from the lower end of the Great Gallery. About 5 meters from the end of the passage, there is a step. Before the passage slopes down a further 60 centimeters to the floor level of the Queen's Chamber. There is some speculation regarding this step. Some argue that the pink granite floor blocks originally started at the edge of the step. Okay, that's fine. Antiquities, no. Building plans. Okay. The chamber is made entirely of beautifully finished limestone blocks with a gabled ceiling. Okay. What else is in there? Is it just that's it? There's nothing else inside. So it would probably explain. This one probably got finished first, right? And then once it was finished, they then had to build the next one that was higher up in the pyramid, which I would imagine would have been a giant pain because you've already built that section. Talk about a hassle. Anyway. Chamber. Made entirely of beautifully finished limestone blocks with a gabled ceiling. Oh, let's see what we've got here. And in the center, let's just put that there. That'll do. Happy with that. Moving on. So we're almost there. Shafts, dead ends. The subterranean chamber is probably our next sort of port of call, so let's go with that. And plug that into our little research bar and So I did a lot of this years ago, but this is back when Wizards of the Coast had like the old Wizards of the Coast forums. I put a lot of stuff up there, like a lot of stuff. And it's kind of gotten lost because as I changed computers and of course that website disappeared, those things that I created are gone, which is a shame. It's a bit of a pain actually. So I don't like it more than above ground. This mysterious chamber is the only part of the pyramid that is unfinished. Interesting. What have you got here? Okay, most caves is Freddie Mercury's singing room. It could well be. Nice. I'm going to end this poll. I just realized how much time has disappeared, and it's almost time for me to go to work. Okay, so look, I'm hoping this has sort of inspired people to consider using a pyramid in their games. Like, that would be really good. I think that would be awesome. A chamber. It's unfinished. Full of water. Okay. All right. So let's sort of have a look at what we have here. I would say this is not finished, but that's all right. I'll get there. So this is, let's just switch over very quickly. So pyramids. So what I've done is try to do is just do a very quick sort of description of what that area of the pyramid is like, based off what is talked about on the internet, and broken up to areas so that it's easy to do that. And there's a few that I'll need to sort of finish off, but we've got most of them. We've got the discussion around water, sand, and snakes as a booby trap chamber. And we've got our harmonics chamber. We've got our star observatory chamber. I will fix that up later. I'll build out some of these sentences a little bit more, give you a little bit more information. We have a lot of different purposes that the pyramid could be used for. And yeah, that's what I've been... A lot of this was already written, but I've just been adding to it as we've been going through the live stream. So I'm hoping this was useful to you people. Like if it was what you were after, if it gets you to use a pyramid in your games, sweet. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself, Steve, and everybody else who's been fantastic. You've provided lots and lots of really good ideas, and yeah, it's always nice when that's the case. And I've discovered that happens a lot here on this channel as it happens. So, huge thank you to all of my patrons. I want to thank everybody who took part today, either whether you've been listening or watching, taking part in the poll, presenting your ideas. A huge thank you, as I said, to all of my patrons, but specifically I want to thank Prepare, Cook and Survive, Fred Hubber for all of his fantastic ideas, Pale Rider, Steve, Shiner81, Overboard. Thank you. How's it going, Joe? Keep coming back. I know you get busy. And anybody else that I might have missed. If I have missed you, Nacho Man. That's right. Nacho Man was probably here for a little bit as well. So yeah, huge thank you to everybody who took part today. It's been fun. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, or the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Did I say a big thank you to Pale Rider and Prepare, Cook and Survive? I hope I did. I know you guys have been here. Anyway, I'm done. I should be finishing. I'm going to shut up. See you later.